You ever have that moment when someone says just one thing, one line, and it sticks in your head for days? You keep replaying it, wondering why it hit you so hard, why it felt different. That's not an accident. It's not random. That's the power of saying the right thing at the right time. And when it comes to attraction, deep, obsessive, lasting attraction, words matter more than we think. There's a difference between just talking to someone and saying something that lands. Something that doesn't just fill silence, but creates gravity. And when I tell you there's a specific kind of phrase, a certain way of speaking to a man, that locks you into his mind, I mean it quite literally. Because there are words that don't just sound nice to a man. They imprint on him. They sink in. They dig beneath his armor and whisper directly to that part of him that's starving to feel chosen, respected, needed. Now, most people think men don't need words the way women do. That they're physical, visual, simple. But that's a myth. A man might not admit it, but he remembers what you said, especially if it made him feel something different. Especially if it made him feel like more of himself. Because when a man is with a woman who knows how to speak to his core, the version of himself he wants to be, he becomes addicted, not to your body, not even to your attention, but to the feeling you give him about himself. So what's the secret? What do you actually say? It starts by realizing that men, just like women, are walking around with silent insecurities, questions they don't voice out loud. Am I enough? Do I matter? Can someone actually see me? And most of the time, when people are flirting or trying to impress each other, they miss the mark. They go for what's obvious. You're hot. You're funny. I had fun with you. It's surface level noise. It doesn't register. But the moment you say something real, something sharp, precise, and emotionally loaded, it's like everything else fades out. The room gets quiet. Time slows. Because now he's not just hearing a compliment. He's having F moment. Let me show you the difference. Let's say you're on a date. He's telling you about something he did. Maybe how he handled a tough work situation or helped a friend out of a jam. Most people would say something generic like, "That's really cool," or "You're such a nice guy." It's polite, but forgettable. But imagine saying this instead. You know what? I don't think most people would have handled it like that. You've got this calm strength to you. It's rare, that sentence. That kind of line. It's not just a compliment. It's a reflection. It shows you see him, that you noticed something subtle, something unique. And once he hears that, it sticks. Because now, in his mind, you're no longer just a date. You're someone who sees something deeper in him. And men don't forget that. This is why I say one thing, just once, and he'll obsess over you forever. Because it's not about repeating cheesy lines. It's not about playing games or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about being emotionally intelligent enough to say the right thing. Something anchored in truth, but delivered in a way that wakes him up. That makes him feel something he didn't even know he was craving. You're not trying to impress him. You're showing him he impresses you in a way no one else has said out loud. That's the magic. That's the part that haunts him in the best way possible. Here's the real kickers. You only need to say it once. Just once. Because when you land that kind of statement, it doesn't fade. He remembers it when he's driving home. He remembers it when he sees your name pop up. He remembers it when he's lying awake at night, wondering what it is about you that's gotten under his skin. So the next time you're talking to someone you're interested in, don't focus on being impressive. Focus on being as impactful. Listen deeply. Reflect something meaningful back to him. Say that one thing, just once, and let it echo. Because when a man feels like you see him better than he sees himself, that's when the obsession begins. There's something most people miss when they're trying to create attraction, especially with men. They think it's all about looking good, being charming, having the right kind of playful banter. And sure, those things can get attention. But attention is easy. Obsession. The kind of emotional grip that stays with a man even when you're not around. That's built on something deeper, something primal. Every man, underneath all his confidence and charm, has a hidden instinct, the need to feel like a hero. Now, I don't mean a superhero flying around in a cape. I'm talking about something much more human, much more real. A man wants to feel like he matters to someone. Like he's not just wanted, but needed. That he's strong, capable, and uniquely positioned to protect and provide something of value for you. And the crazy part is, when you tap into that instinct, even subtly, you don't have to try so hard to hold his attention. You don't have to chase or wonder if he's still interested. Because when a man feels like he has a purpose in your life, when he feels like he gets to step into his best self with you, he bonds to that feeling. And by extension, he bonds to you. But here's the nuance: most people try to trigger this in the wrong way. They either make the mistake of over-praising him, saying things like, "You're so amazing," or "You're the best guy I've ever met," which sounds nice, but lacks specificity. Or they go in the other direction and try to be too independent, thinking, "I don't need a man for anything." And while strength and independence are essential, the truth is, if a man doesn't feel like he adds something to your life, he won't stay emotionally invested. So how do you strike the balance? How do you say something that speaks to that hero instinct without sounding like you're being manipulative or overly reliant? It can be as simple as this: "I feel so safe when I'm with you." That one sentence. That's all it takes. You'd be amazed what that does to a man. Because suddenly, it's not just about you liking him. It's about trust. It's about him making you feel something you don't feel with just anyone. And when you say it sincerely, at the right moment, with softness in your voice and honesty in your eyes, it hits him in a place that rarely gets touched. Because every man wants to be the guy who makes you feel safe, emotionally, physically, even spiritually. And when you acknowledge that he does that for you, you're telling him, you're not just attractive, you're essential. And now, you might be thinking, but what if I actually don't feel safe with him? Great question. This doesn't work unless it's grounded in something real. You can't fake this. You wait until you see it. Maybe it's the way he handles stress calmly. Maybe it's the way he steps up without being asked. Maybe it's the way he listens when you talk and remembers the little things. Whatever it is, when you see it, speak it. That's where the power is. You don't need to shower him with compliments. You don't need to perform. You just need to recognize and name the quality that brings out his strength. And once you do, something shifts. He starts to see you as the woman who brings out the best in him. The woman who makes him feel like he's not just good, but great. And once he associates that feeling with you, he'll crave it. He'll chase it, because no one else is making him feel that way. Not the woman who only flirts with surface-level compliments. Not the one who plays it too cool to care. You become the one who unlocked something in him no one else even noticed was there. It's not about stroking his ego. It's about inviting him to step fully into the version of himself he's proud to be. The version that shows up for you. And when you do that, he starts seeing you as someone he doesn't just want to be with, but someone he doesn't want to let down. So the next time he does something that genuinely makes you feel protected, appreciated, looked after, even in a small way, say it. Just once. With intention, with warmth, let it land. Because when a man hears, "I feel safe with you," from a woman he admires, he remembers it. Not just that night, but days later, weeks later. It echoes. It becomes a core memory. And it's not because you flattered him. It's because you made him feel like your hero. And once he feels that you're unforgettable, there's a kind of compliment that lights a man up on the outside. And then there's the kind that stays with him long after you've walked away. And the difference between the two, it's subtle. But once you understand it, you stop wasting words on things that don't matter. You stop saying things just to be nice, and you start saying things that mean something. So many people try to get a guy's attention by appealing to his ego. You're so hot. You're successful. Every girl must want you. And while he might smirk or act flattered, that's surface level. It hits the outer shell of who he is. He's heard it before, and if he hasn't, he expects to hear it. You're just confirming something he already believes. Or something he wants to believe. But here's the thing. That doesn't create an emotional imprint. It doesn't set you apart. And it definitely doesn't make him obsess. The obsession comes when you don't just speak to his ego, but you touch something beneath it. When your words make him feel not just admired, but understood. Not just impressive, but seen. That's where the magic is. You can tell him he looks good, and he'll smile. But tell him, there's something about the way you think, it's addictive. And you've just hit a nerve. Now he's paying attention. Because that's not something you say to just anyone. That's not a recycled line. That's personal. That's sharp. That's specific. The truth is, men get a lot of empty praise, especially if they're even halfway attractive or charismatic. They know how to charm a room. They've got a decent job. They carry themselves well. And people feed that. So when you say something that everyone else could say, it just blends into the noise. But when you say something that shows you're watching him differently, listening differently, seeing something no one else is calling out, it disorients him in the best way. Let me give you an example. Say he's telling you about a tough decision he had to make, something that involved real thought, some kind of risk, maybe a bit of strategy. Most people would respond with, "Wow, good for you," or "That must have been hard." It's polite, it's fine, but it doesn't leave a mark. Now imagine this instead. I love the way your mind works when you're under pressure. You don't just react, you calculate. That's rare. Do you see the difference? Now he's not just being praised. He's being read. And that hits somewhere far deeper than flattery. Because now you're making him think, wait, how did she notice that? And in that moment, you're not just attractive, you're memorable. You've positioned yourself as someone who sees the dimensions of him that even he might not fully own yet. And here's the kicker. When you speak to the part of him that he secretly hopes someone might one day see, you become incredibly valuable to him. Not because you're boosting his ego, but because you're waking up a truth inside of him that no one else has touched. Men are starving for depth, for real connection. They may not say it out loud, and often they don't even realize it until it happens. But when it does happen, They don't forget it. And if that experience is connected to you've just become someone his mind can't easily let go of. But here's what you need to remember. You can't fake this. This only works if you're actually paying attention. If you're actually curious, if you're not just waiting for your turn to speak, but really observing the details. How he thinks, how he moves, how he handles things when no one's watching. That's how you learn what to say. That's how you deliver a line that feels completely organic, but lands with weight. And you don't need to overdo it. One well-placed line can do more than 100 compliments. It's not about pouring on praise. It's about saying something once with precision and letting it echo in his mind. That's what creates obsession, not effort, not performance, precision. The next time you're with him, when he says something that gives you even a glimpse of who he really is, something beyond the obvious, pause. And instead of complimenting the outcome, compliment the quality behind it. The part of him that made that moment possible. That's the kind of praise that hits the soul. Because when you speak to a man in a way that makes him feel not just desired, but understood, you don't just flirt with him. You mark him. You know what kills attraction faster than anything else? When someone says something that feels like it came from a script. The moment a man senses that what you're saying has been rehearsed, or that you're trying to perform for him instead of connect with him, it's over. Because men, like all of us, crave authenticity. They want to believe that what you're saying is ever for them. In this moment, not just some recycled line you found online or used on someone else 2 nights ago. When we talked about saying something that sticks, something that makes a man obsess over you, it only works when it comes from a place of truth, real presence, real emotion, not performance, not tactics. And this is the part people get wrong. They think, okay, what's the exact sentence I can use to make him fall for me? But the words are only as powerful as the energy behind them. You can say the most magical line in the world, but if it sounds like you're trying to get a reaction or force a moment, it'll fall flat. He might nod, he might smile politely, but he won't feel it. This is why presence matters. Emotional honesty matters. Because the right line is never about manipulation. It's about intention. You're not saying it to make him chase you. You're saying it because you genuinely noticed something worth calling out. You meant it. You weren't trying to be clever. You weren't performing. And that's what makes it powerful. Because men aren't stupid. They may not be trained to talk about their emotions the same way women are, but they feel energy just as deeply. They know when something's real. They know when they're being handled, and they know when they're being seen. So let's talk about how you actually say something that lands with impact, without it feeling rehearsed or forced. It starts with being fully in the moment. Actually listen to what he's saying. Not just the words, but the tone, the body language, the unspoken part of it. That's where the truth lies. And when you find yourself noticing something about him, something specific, something subtle, say it right then. You don't need to build it up. You don't need to pause for dramatic effect. Just say it like it's the most natural thing in the world. Let's say you're having a conversation and he's telling you about something that really matters to him. Maybe a moment where he stepped up for someone or something he worked hard for. You could respond in a typical way. That's awesome, good for you, and it would be fine. Or you could go a step further. You could drop something casual but precise, like F. I don't say this often, but you've got this quiet strength about you. Like you'd handle something without needing everyone to know it. That kind of energy feels safe. So now that sentence. That doesn't sound scripted. That doesn't sound like something you practiced in front of the mirror. That sounds like a moment. It sounds like you just caught something real and decided to share it. Right then, without fanfare. That's the kind of thing he remembers. Because it wasn't delivered like a performance. It was shared like a secret. And here's the other thing men want to earn your admiration. So when you say something that feels real, that's tied to something he did or he said. It tells him you weren't just waiting to hand out a compliment. You were paying attention. You weren't trying to win him. You were watching him. You saw something and you spoke it. That alone makes you different. And don't underestimate the power of your voice when you say it. I don't mean the sound of it. I mean the tone. Is there warmth in it? Curiosity? Softness? Or are you rushing to get the line out so it sounds right? The most powerful phrases are the ones that feel tossed off, almost like you didn't even realize how impactful they were. That's when it hits hardest. When it feels effortless, honest, unfiltered. That's what creates the imprint. The truth is, you don't need to memorize the perfect line. You need to mean what you say. That's what will separate you from every other woman who's trying to impress him. Don't overthink it. Don't try to be impressive. Let your attraction for him show up through observation, through insight, through timing. Be willing to say one meaningful thing, and trust that, if it's sincere, it's enough. Because when a man feels that your words came from a place of truth, not performance, he won't question them. He'll carry them. One of the most overlooked parts of attraction is the power of exclusivity. Not in a superficial way, not about playing hard to get or acting like you're too good for someone, but in how you make someone feel when they realize you don't say what you just said to everyone. That moment when a man pauses, looks at you a little differently, and thinks, why me? Why did she say that to me? That's the beginning of obsession. Not because you gave him something, but because you gave him something rare. People are drawn to what feels scarce. Emotionally, psychologically, we chase the things we believe not everyone has access to. And when it comes to words, when it comes to those emotionally charged sentences that stay with someone for days or weeks, the impact is multiplied if it feels like it came from a place of selectivity. You weren't just handing out compliments like candy. You chose that moment. You chose him to hear something personal, something meaningful, and something he knows isn't part of your usual script. The line that makes him obsess isn't just powerful because of what it says. It's powerful because of how rare it feels coming from you. Think about it. If someone is constantly dishing out praise, it doesn't feel special. But if someone is usually a little more reserved, thoughtful, intentional, and then they drop one sincere, specific comment, it lands. And it lands hard. Because now it's not just about what you said. It's about the fact that you don't say it often. So if you want to say something that sticks, that lingers in his mind long after the conversation is over, start by setting the tone that you don't give your approval easily. You don't say, I miss you, to every guy who texts back. You don't say, you make me feel safe, just because he picked up the check. You're not cold or withholding. You're just discerning. You speak with intention, not habit. And that means that when you do say something emotionally rich, it matters. Here's the beauty of it. You can even say that you're selective, and it makes what follows instantly more valuable. Imagine saying something like, I don't usually tell guys this, but boss. And then finish with whatever real, grounded compliment you've been holding back. Maybe it's, there's something about your presence that calms me down, even when everything else feels chaotic. Or the way you handled that. I've honestly never seen someone manage pressure like that without needing to talk about it. You've now done two things. You gave him a genuine compliment, Alice, and you made it feel like he unlocked something in you. That's irresistible. Because people want to feel like they're discovering layers. They want to feel like they're the exception. And if he believes he's seen or heard something from you that others haven't, he becomes invested in keeping that connection alive. He starts wondering what else is in there, what other little moments he could earn from you. That curiosity grows. That's what turns a passing attraction into a lasting fascination. But again, this only works if it's real. If you actually hold your words back until you mean them. If you're saying, I don't usually say this, but you say it 3 times a week, it won't land. He'll feel the inconsistency. This whole thing is about building emotional credibility. You earn it with your presence, your energy, your timing. And then, when the moment is right, you drop a sentence that hits him in the gut. And you walk away like it was nothing. You want him thinking, what did I do to get that from her? What does she see in me? You want him replaying your words, not because you said them loudly, but because you said them once and never repeated them. That's how you become unforgettable. You're not flooding him with validation. You're giving him a moment, and then letting the silence, after that moment, make it echo even louder. And here's what really cements it. When you give that one rare, emotionally resonant comment, and then you don't follow it up with neediness, with extra praise, with expectation. You say it, you mean it, and then you go right back to being present, grounded, secure. That balance between warmth and mystery is what keeps him coming back. You're not using words to hook him. You're using truth to wake him up. Because when a man hears something rare from a woman who doesn't say it to everyone, he doesn't just feel complimented, he feels chosen. There's something incredibly powerful about a moment that feels small on the surface, but leaves a mark that never quite fades. That's what we're really talking about when we say one thing, and he'll obsess over you forever. It's not about tricking someone. It's not about seduction in the cheap, manipulative sense of the word. It's about saying something that lands with weight, something that sinks into a man's memory. Not because it was loud, not because it was clever, but because it hit a nerve he didn't even know was waiting to be touched. You see, most people are chasing connection by doing more, saying more, texting more, performing, pleasing, proving. But in the noise of that over-effort, the real impact gets lost. The truth is, the most unforgettable things we say are usually the things we say as once. We say it with clarity, with emotional conviction, without trying to get something in return. And that's exactly why it stays. When you drop a sentence that speaks to who he is, or who he wants to be, you're not just giving him a compliment. You're giving him a mirror, a reflection of his best self, spoken out loud by someone he wants to impress. That kind of moment doesn't just flatter him. It imprints on him, emotionally, psychologically. Because now, your words are tied to his identity. You said something that reinforced how he wants to feel about himself. And whether he realizes it or not, he now associates that feeling with you. This is what people don't understand about emotional influence. The words we remember most aren't always the ones that were repeated or rehearsed. They're the ones that felt true. And when something feels true, especially if it comes from someone we're attracted to, it bypasses logic and lodges itself into our emotional memory. That's why you can say one meaningful line and walk away. And it haunts him for days. But here's the part most people miss. That kind of sentence only works when it's anchored in authenticity. You can't fake it. You can't say something deep if you don't mean it and expect it to hit the same way. The reason it leaves a lasting impact is because it's not said casually. It's not said often. It's said once if. And it's real. That's what makes it so rare. Let's say you're spending time with someone and you see something in him that stands out. Not something obvious, not something everyone sees, but something you noticed. Maybe it's the way he instinctively looks out for people without needing credit. Maybe it's the quiet confidence he carries when he's not performing for anyone. Maybe it's the way he treats people with respect, even when there's nothing in it for him. And in a calm, grounded way, you just say, that part of you, most people won't see it. But I do. And honestly, it's what makes you unforgettable. Say, that's it. You don't need to elaborate. You don't need to explain yourself. You just say it, with presence, with sincerity, and then you let it hang there in the air. He'll remember that moment, not because you followed it up with 3 more compliments, not because you tried to use it as leverage, but because it felt like a window into how you see him. And he likes how you see him. He wants to live up to that version of himself. He wants to be the man you see. And now, without realizing it, he's emotionally connected to you. Not because you gave him attention, but because you gave him meaning. That's the difference. That's what makes one sentence more powerful than hours of conversation. It's the emotional precision of it. The timing, the truth. This is not about playing games. This is not about controlling anyone. It's about understanding that real emotional connection doesn't need to be loud or dramatic to be life-changing. Sometimes, it's the softest thing we say, the thing we didn't even plan to say, that echoes in someone's mind for months. The phrase they remember when they miss you. The sentence they replay when they wonder why you got under their skin the way you did. So if you've been thinking that you need to say more, do more, push harder to stand out, don't. The real key is in saying less, but with more meaning. Find that one thing you genuinely see in him, that truth that no one else has spoken out loud, and say it. Say it once. And let it land. Because one honest sentence, spoken at the right moment, doesn't just touch his heart. It stays there.